What happens when online activism crosses a line? All right, today we're going to break down an investigative report that claims to uncover what it calls the architecture of digital vigilantism, and it focuses on the watchdog group StopAntisemitism and its founder, Liora Rez.
Okay, so here's how we're going to tackle this. First up, we'll look at a case involving a very surprising target. Then we'll unpack the reputation machine that was allegedly used against them. After that, we'll follow the money, dive into the legal battles that came next, and wrap up with what the report calls the chilling effect. So to really get what this report is all about, you have to start with this really unlikely target, a children's entertainer who is beloved by millions.
Yeah, we're talking about Rachel Accurso. You probably know her as Miss Rachel if you've got young kids or have been around them.
So it all begs this really wild question. How on earth does a person who sings songs for toddlers on YouTube find themselves formally accused of being a paid foreign agent? I mean, really? According to the report, it all started with a fundraiser Ms. Rachel did for kids in Gaza, and that was the trigger. StopAntisemitism apparently accused her of spreading propaganda, but they didn't stop there. They actually sent a letter to the Department of Justice asking them to investigate her under FARA, that's the Foreign Agents Registration Act. So they were essentially telling the U.S. government to look into a children's entertainer as if she were a spy.
Okay, so how does a situation like that even get off the ground? This is where the report really starts to dig in, trying to understand the people and the playbook behind these campaigns.
And right at the center of it all is Liora Rez. The report kind of maps out her whole journey, starting with her online persona, Jewish chick, all the way to founding Stop Antisemitism. And her goal, right from the get-go, was pretty explicit: to create consequences. And this tactic, this whole approach, is what the report calls digital vigilantism. The key thing to understand here, according to the source, is that this isn't just about calling someone out online. It's about launching these organized campaigns specifically designed to destroy someone's reputation, both online and in the real world. And get this, the source claims they've identified a specific 4-step playbook they call the reputation kill chain. It's pretty systematic. Step 1, identify a target. Step 2, amplify. They blast that person's name, photo, and where they work to their huge following. Step 3, instruct. They tell their followers to start contacting the person's boss or their school. And the final goal, the whole point, consequences. Getting that person fired or kicked out. You know, an operation like that, it's got to cost money and needs resources. So naturally, the next question the report dives into is, where's the money coming from? Follow the money. So on the surface, the organization calls itself a grassroots watchdog. You know, the idea is that it's powered by regular people, small donations. But the report points to public tax filings and says, hang on, that might not be the whole story. And it starts with the executive director's salary back in 2022, more than $125,000. And this chart, this is where the report claims to really lay out the financial plumbing. The allegation is that Stop Antisemitism isn't its own standalone nonprofit. Nope. It's what's called a fiscally sponsored project of a different organization, the Morona Leadership Foundation. And as you can see, the report claims that foundation, which is headed by philanthropist Adam Milstein, is the one that actually paid Rez's salary and covered the group's expenses. Okay, so when you have this kind of aggressive approach, it's probably not a surprise that it ends up in court. And the report details these legal battles as, case studies for how these methods play out in the real world. All right, case number 1. The report digs into this one involving a college hockey player and a really serious accusation of a hate crime, and it all came down to a swastika. Okay, and this is the absolute heart of that lawsuit. The organization's claim was that the student was caught spray painting swastikas, but the official police report, it said he spray painted something totally different, and that difference is huge. In fact, a judge ended up ruling that the swastika claim wasn't just some opinion, it was a provably false statement of fact. And that right there is the legal bar you have to clear for defamation. But it doesn't stop there. According to the source, there's an even more recent lawsuit filed in May of 2025. And the allegations in this one are, well, they're even more serious. So this next case is about a doctor who says she was fired from her job after a campaign against her that, she alleges, used doctored screenshots of her social media.
Now, what's really different about this lawsuit is who it's targeting. It's not just going after the organization itself, it's also naming the alleged funder, Adam Milstein, as a defendant. It's trying to draw a direct legal line from the campaign all the way back to its financial source.
Okay, so we've seen these individual cases, but the report's final point is to zoom out and argue that these aren't just one-off incidents. They create a much bigger, more systemic problem.
The report argues that the real power of these campaigns is that they create what lawyers call a heckler's veto. So what does that mean? Basically, a university or an employer gets hit with this massive wave of online outrage, this digital mob, and they get so overwhelmed that they punish the person being targeted, not because of something they actually did wrong, but just to make the noise stop.
And this, according to the report, leads to the ultimate goal. The claim is that these institutions, because they're so worried about bad PR, just bypass their own rules, forget about due process. And what's the result? A climate of fear. People become afraid to say what they think, especially about really sensitive issues. And that self-censorship, that fear, that is the chilling effect.
So when you put it all together, this whole report really boils down to one massive question for our time. In this digital age, where exactly is the line between fierce, passionate advocacy and unlawful harassment? What's the difference between a watchdog and a vigilante? And maybe the most important question of all, in the court of public opinion, who really gets to be the judge?